Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Issei. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei got harem with Rias, Issei, Gabriel and Serafall. Part 1. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. During the Great War, an angel female and a devil male fell in love, knowing that they would be killed by their own faction. They kept it a secret. A secret kept for 300 years into the war until other angels start noticing a dark aura around her. Most angels thought she was trying to prevent herself from falling and left her alone. Unknown location. Meeting with each other was always a risk of being caught or followed, but this meeting was more important than any other times they met. Though he was a devil, he waited for her during the time she did the safe sex ritual, and she loved how romantic he was when they were away from the battlefield. "My darling devil," she started, "I have news of the utmost importance." She stopped to take a breath for courage. He saw the sorrow on her face and asked, "What is it, my love?" as he held both her hands in his. She looked into his eyes as tears started slowly creeping out of hers and said, "I'm with child and is due in 5 months' time." She thought he would be worried or angry, bringing a half and half into this world, especially during these turbulent times, but she was shocked and unhappy when he held her in his arms and gave her a kiss, but all the feelings he had went south when she continued her news. "I can feel the energies within this child fighting each other for domination," she paused, "and if we don't find a way to prevent each from clashing when the child is born, it will die." He looked onto her with despair on his face, then he asked, "Does anyone in heaven know of this?" She shook her head and replied, "No, no one knows of us or this child." He stood there thinking she was sad and thinking he will leave her to her fate, but he held chin within his right index finger and thumb, looked her in her eyes and said, "We'll have to leave heaven and the underworld behind if we want this child of ours to survive." She looked at him and asked, "Where will we go?" He replied, "The dimensional gap." Dimensional gap. Within the dimensional gap there was a great red is a massive red western dragon with a horn on its snout. His overall length measures around 100 meters, rolling around doing what appears to be cartwheels and other tricks. The couple looked at him, and when he got close the devil stood in his way. The angel, fearing for her lover's life, was about to look away, but was surprised when the dragon of dragons stopped and snorted at him. "Who dares obstruct my path?" he bellowed as he looked upon the devil. "Tell me why I shouldn't smash you where you stand." The devil kneeled in front of the dragon and said, "Great Red, I am but a lowly devil, and my love is an angel. I have but one request, and you may do as you wish to me." At this gesture the dragon looked at the angel with his golden eye, and he sniffed her. "You are with child that is half and half." She nodded at him and said yes. Great Red looked at the devil and asked him what is his request, already knowing the answer. "But this," the devil replied, "the mixing of light and dark energy will kill our child upon birth. We humbly ask you to help us balance the powers of both." Fearing the dragon would deny his request, the man did not raise his head to look at the dragon. Why would a dragon help a lowly devil and angel? He is a massive power and destruction. He can easily kill them like swatting a mosquito. "Sure, I can do that," Great Red replied, "but she cannot leave the dimensional gap and has to stay on my back until after the child is born." Knowing this, the couple agreed. The man was happy as he held his love and placed her on top of Great Red's back, kissing, and told her he'll be right back. He left and came back within an hour with food and supplies for the stay. 5 months later. "Come on, honey, one more push," the man told his love. During the 2 weeks, Great Red was slowly giving some of his energy to the unborn child so that it will be born 1 part angel, 1 part devil and 1 part dragon. But now it was time for the child to be born. Even though the devil left the dimensional gap to attend to his duties and his involvement in the war, the angel never left the gap. But she left a message in heaven saying that she fears that she will fall and has left for solitude to prevent herself from becoming a fallen. Among the 3 currently in the gap, another has just entered, a baby boy with light brown eyes, crying and screaming as he's being held in his mother's arms. "What should we name him, dear?" the angel asked her devil lover. He looked at her and shrugged his shoulders, indicating he had no clue, just enjoying the bliss of just being a father. Great Red coughed, indicating he wanted to name the boy. The couple noticed this and asked Great Red to name the child and be the boy's godfather and caretaker, knowing they both had to return to their duties as angel and devil due to the ongoing war. As much as he would like to say no to the latter, he agreed. After naming the boy Issei, they came to the dimensional gap to take care of him during the times they had free, some time together and most time alone. His father was the first to die in the war right after his first birthday. He died while protecting Lady Grimmery from a light spear aimed at her. His mother was heartbroken, depressed, but always smiling when she was with her son, wishing she could take him out of the gap, but feared the other angels will kill him on sight and in her for creating him with a devil. It was 4 days before little Issei's 7th birthday when his mother was called to the front lines. Her garrison was ambushed by devils led by the house of Marquis Rias, and with her last breath to Great Red, she asked him to care for her son. Great Red hearing this used his magic and opened a small gap into heaven into her quarters and took everything she wanted to give to her son, the toys for his birthday, the letter to him from his father, the picture of his parents at a lake during sunset, and any other items to say she was involved with a devil, and gave birth to Issei. When he was done removing what he needed to remove, he was wondering how to tell a kid who was about to turn 7 his mother had just died. On his 13th birthday, Great Red gave Issei the letter that was written to him from his father all those years ago. My son Issei, first of his name, if you are reading this, then the worst has happened, and I along with your mother have perished in the war. I was but a low-born devil born to serve the house of Gremory and your mother and angel under the command of Archangel Gabriel. I know it's hard to accept why two natural enemies would love each other, but we did, and through that love you were born. My only regret is I will not see what kind of man you will become, but I know I will be proud of the choices you make, and I will watch over you in the afterlife with your mother Lauren. Your father. Marikai Vashtanari. As Issei read the letter, a single fell onto the letter that was the last time he ever cried for over his parents. With new determination he talked to the one being who has been by his side. Hey Uncle Red, he started, can you train me on how to use my powers? Great Red just huffed at him and said, I was wondering how long I had to wait before you suggested it yourself. Here's your first lesson. Aji yelled, sending a fireball straight at him. And so began Issei's training. Many years later. The training was brutal. With Great Red's help, he mastered different style of martial arts and swordsmanship, along with his mastery over his holy and demonic magic. Also due to the power he got from Great Red, he also acquired the ability to transform his body into a 25-meter tall crimson dragon, how to create a pocket dimension. Also his wings, at first he had 1 pair of each, now he had 3 pairs of each, giving him 18 wings. Great Red also told him he's as strong as the heavenly dragons before they got sealed. He also learned how to manipulate one of each set of wings to show up at a time. He also made his own magic circle, which consisted of a dragon's head with ram's horn on both sides, a cross in the middle of the dragon's head, and 1 pair of both angel and devil wings, spreading behind the dragon's head. During his training the Great War came to an end. God died in battle with the original 7 princes of the underworld after being weakened while sealing Trihexa and creating the sacred gears. Then came the civil war of the underworld between the old Mau faction and the new Mau faction, with the victory going to the new Mau faction and the creation of the evil P system. Issei took these times to travel to Earth and stayed in hiding. He could always sense when someone from the 3 factions was trying to get near him, so they can sense what he was. Even thought he did his best to hide power and stay below the radar. His power still leaked a bit. It was during these times when he sensed someone following him, and like always, he lost whoever was following him. He was enjoying his time on Earth until one day he was sitting in a park in Europe and saw a young boy playing with his parents. He left the park and teleported back to the dimensional gap. Hey Uncle Red, I need your help with something, he yelled at the dragon that was doing tricks in the dimensional gap, who came to a stop and looked at Issei. What is it? How was your trip to the human world? I need your help. I wish use a spell that will revert me back into a baby and with seal on my body to hide my heritage so I can appear human, he asked. Great Red looked and replied, I can do that, but the seal will break if your life is in danger and your full power and heritage will be awakened. I see, let's do it anyways. Great Red looked at him and replied, there's a catch with the seal, you won't just appear human and not use your heritage powers. But you won't even know of it unless the seal is broken and your memories will merge. Issei looked at Great Red and nodded his head in agreement. A magic circle appeared under both of them, and before the flash Great Red smiled at Issei and told him, enjoy being a human, but be warned, even though I sealed your powers, you still carry the scent of a dragon and the aura of both devil and angel. As he said this, he searched the dreams of everyone on Earth and found a couple who would be perfect for raising Issei. Earth, Japan, my prefecture. The young couple was leaving the ice Grand Shrine after praying to the Shinto goddess of the sun Amaterasu when they heard a child crying in the bushes. Deciding to take a look, they found a baby boy with light brown eyes wrapped in a red blanket. As the couple decided to look for the parents of the child, they found no one claiming the child, and the shrine maiden insisted they adopt the young boy. Knowing they always pray for a child of their own. While the couple were looking at the child trying to think of a name, Great Red decided to help them one more time and with a nudge of his powers put the name into their minds. As the couple looked at each other and smiled, then said to the shrine maiden, we shall name him Issei, Issei Haidu. The shrine maiden smiled and replied, that's a lovely name for a boy. Let's pray for his success in the future. And with that the Haidu family prayed one more time at the shrine. 6 years later. Don't cry, Irie-kun, we'll see each other again when we get bigger. A young Issei was trying to comfort his friend who just told him that their family is moving to England because of her father's job. But Ice-kun will find new friends and forget about me. She stood in front of him crying. He held her hand and told her, I'll never forget you, Irie-kun. When she heard this, a smile appeared on her face and she kissed him on the cheek. You, Irie-kun, why did you kiss me? He yelled in shock. Because girls always kiss the boy she likes. When he heard this his whole attitude changed as he looked at her like he was seeing something new for the first time and replied, Airi-kun is a girl. Upon hearing this she delivered a punch to his stomach and walked away, then looked back seeing her friend holding his stomach. She pouted, well saying stupid eyes, I can't believe he thought I was a boy. Waving goodbye to Irina and her family, Issei stood outside with his mom and asked her, hey mom, do you think I'll ever see her again? She looked at her son and replied, I'm sure you'll see her again someday when you're older. Hearing that he smiled and walked back home holding his mother's hand. Growing up Issei and his parents always knew he was different than other children around his age. He was faster and more athletic, healed at a quicker rate when injured and smarter than even most adults. This became evident when he was 10 years old and was watching the news with his father and told him he should invest in certain companies. His father did it on a whim and became wealthy within a month. After that he left his job as a salesman and gave Issei his own money to do as he pleased. Issei took his money and also invested in different companies over the years and also helped his father invest as well. At age 16 he bought a crimson Yamaha Striker motorcycle with black leather seats. On the passenger's backrest there was a motif of a red dragon spreading its wings as if showing its body. He also added chrome exhaust with matching handlebars. As he walked to school he wondered why he let his parents talk him to transfer into the former all-girls academy that recently turned co-ed cow academy. It's been a month since he transferred into this school and he always felt like someone was watching him. He just shrugged it off as the girls who gave him the nickname the Gentleman Prince, which he didn't care for. Now taking a break after eating his lunch, he decided to take a nap in his usual spot under a tree close to the old school building. Looking out the window of the old school building looking at Issei taking a nap was a young woman who appears to be in her late teens with light skin, blue eyes and a buxom figure. Her most distinctive feature is her long crimson-red hair that reaches down to her thighs, with a single hair strand sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. The Keno isn't that the boy I asked Kaneko to keep an eye on, she asked the other female in the room. Said female came to the window and looked down at the young man resting under a tree. She had a smile on his face and replied, yes, that's him. He looks so cute, I just want to tease him. Rias just looked at her and smiled. She asked, has Sona finished her investigation on him? The Keno replied after she moved a chess piece on the desk. She said she'll be finished in 2 days. Rias left the window and moved her chess piece and replied with a checkmate. As Issei was leaving he stopped on a bridge and looked at the passing traffic, then he heard a girl calling his name. When he turned to look at the person who called his name, he saw a girl around his age with long black hair that reached her waist. She was also wearing a school uniform, which consisted of a dark red jacket with a letter P embroidered in gold, a white undershirt, a red bow, and a green skirt with a thin white strip around the lower end of it. You're Issei Haidu, right? She asked with a blush on her cheeks while playing with her fingers. Issei looked at the girl thinking to himself and wondering if he ever met her before. Yes, I'm Issei Haidu, but I'm sorry, have we met before? He answered. The girl clasped her hands together and a smile adorned her face before she replied, no we haven't, my name is Yuma Amano. I always see you walk by and I was wondering if you have girlfriend, if not I would like to go out with you sometime. Issei was speechless thinking about this girl just asked him. Knowing he doesn't have any plans this weekend, looked her with a smile and replied, sure, how about we go out this Saturday? We can meet at the park. As they exchanged numbers and walked away in the opposite direction unknown to them, they were being watched by a short girl eating a chocolate bar. Abandoned church. As Yuma entered the church, a tall man in a pale violet trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants and shoes, and a black fedora grabbed her and placed a pair of handcuffs on her that strips her of all magical abilities. Then asked her about her mission. We have a date this weekend, she replied. He then led her to a room with 2 other females. One was a tall and buxom woman with long navy blue hair that obscured her right eye and brown eyes. She was wearing a violet trench coat-like top with a wide collar, a matching miniskirt, and black heeled shoes. The trench coat top was open at her chest, giving view to her breasts and cleavage. She also wore a gold necklace around her neck. The other was a young short girl with blonde hair styled in twin short side ponytails and blue eyes. She wore a gothic Lolita attire, which consisted of a black Lolita dress with white frills, a large black bow on the front, and a green jewel embedded on the collar, white thigh socks, and black shoes. She also wore a large black bow on top of her hair. Both were also in handcuffed and looked depressed and disheveled. As they looked up to see the door open, they saw their friend return. Rainer, are you okay? The tall one asked the now named Rainer, who just nodded or replied and said, Kalawiner, it's gonna happen this Saturday. I have to kill that poor boy. Then the blonde spoke up, why isn't Azazel-sama doing anything? Because middled, Donasik is working behind Azazel-sama back with Kakabiel. Azazel-sama never want us to kill sacred gear holders, Rainer replied to the blonde. Old school building. Uchu, a fallen angel, has made contact with Issei senpai. They have a date this Saturday, a petite girl with white hair and hazel eyes. Her front hair has 2 long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back has a short bob cut. She also wears a black cat-shaped hair clip on both sides of her hair, reported to Rias. "Thank you, Kaneko, then we'll make preparations and leave the rest to him," Rias replied as she sat behind her desk with both her hands in front of her face. Kaneko nodded and sat on a couch and ate a piece of cake given to her by Akeno. Saturday at the park. Issei was standing near the fountain in the middle of the park, wearing a red leather jacket with a black shirt and pair of jeans with a pair of black biker boots, when a young woman wearing a cosplay outfit with bat wings attached to her back came up to him and handed him a leaflet and left on rollerblades. Issei looked at the leaflet and noticed it had what appeared to be red magic circle, and underneath the circle was a sentence, "Your dreams will be granted." Must be a new cafe, Issei thought as he put the leaflet in his jacket pocket. Yuma came running to him with a smile on her face. "Sorry I'm late, I hope you didn't wait long," she said with a smile. Issei nodded his head as he noticed the yellow and white sundress she was wearing. He grabbed her hand and said, "Let's have some fun." As they were walking, Yuma told him she'd like to be back early in the evening. She was surprised when Issei stopped in front of a motorcycle and gave her a helmet to wear. After seeing Issei put on his own helmet and started the motorcycle, she put on her helmet and sat on the seat behind Issei with one hand holding onto Issei and the other holding down her dress to prevent it from flying up. Issei noticed this and decided to stop at the local mall. As they were walking around, he bought her a pair of jeans to wear. As they rode along the coast, Issei looked in his rearview mirror and noticed a sad look on Yuma's face, but was smiling when they stopped to eat at a restaurant and went on with their date at an amusement park, then drove back to the park. At the park they sat on a bench and Issei decided to talk to her about today. "Hey Yuma, did you have fun today? Cause I noticed a sad smile on your face a few times." She looked at Issei and her smile turned into a frown with tears starting falling from her eyes. "Sorry Issei, I did have fun, but I'm sad at what I have to do now." Issei looked at her with a confused look on his face and got closer to her and put his hand on her shoulders. "What's wrong, you can tell me," he smiled as he said this and looked at her. "I know you're a nice guy and I did have a wonderful time, but I have to kill you now or me and my 2 comrades will die." Issei took a step back and felt a sharp pain in his stomach. When he looked down, he saw a bulk of light that was in his stomach. He reached to pull it out, but it dissipated and blood started pouring out the hole in his stomach. As he fell to his knees, Yuma caught him and gave him a kiss on his lips while crying and saying she was sorry. As she was leaving before he closed his eyes, he say her appearance changed. She grew taller, taking on a more mature appearance, and her eyes changed, taking on a darker, more evil look. Her clothing also changed dramatically, now consisting of black, strap-like objects, resembling leather, around and under her breasts, a thong-like piece held around her hips by 3 thin straps, gloves that run right up her arms with small lengths of chains hanging from them, shoulder guard-like objects on her shoulders with 3 large spikes sprouting from her right shoulder. And black thigh-high heel boots, and then she flew away. "I see, so this is how I die," Issei said to himself while on his knees with his body arched backwards. "At least I got a kiss before I die. I wish I could have helped her, she too beautiful to be sad." As Issei closed his eyes waiting for the end, he felt a power surge build up in his body. The feeling of his body burning was new to him. His eyes shot open as he grunted in pain. He felt an immense power about to leave his body, but then it stopped. He looked down, saw the injury he received closing and healing. Then he held his head as his brain was on fire. Memories he never knew he had came rushing back at him. When everything was over, he stood up, looked down at the blood on the ground, and with a melancholy smile he said, "I guess the seal is broken. I need to talk to Uncle Red. I think I'll do it tomorrow." Making a magic circle appear, he cleaned up the blood at the park, making it look like it never happened. He then got on his motorcycle and went home. Dimensional gap. So someone tried to kill him and broke his seal, huh? This should be fun to see his decisions, Great Red said in a low growl. Old school building. Rias sat at her desk while drinking a cup of tea and looked at the clock, then turned to Akeno and said, "I guess he didn't use the magic circle I gave him. Notify Sona that he has died. She'll know what to do." With a short bow, Akeno left the room. "Too bad, and I thought I found a new servant to join us," Rias thought to herself. Upon arriving home, Issei noticed a police car at his house. He got off his bike and ran inside, shouting, "Mom, Dad, is everyone okay?" His parents along with the 2 officers were shocked to see him, and his mother ran to him and hugged him. As he sat down with the officers and his parents, he was told that a report came in that he had died in a crash. Issei was surprised at this information and thought that someone must have made this up to cover what really happened. After the officers left, Issei assured his parents that he was fine and he wasn't in an accident. He then went to his room and looked through his own memories, and a smile came on his face before he went to bed. It was the day after his date with Yuma, and Issei was preparing to talk with Great Red. As he teleported himself to the dimensional gap, he saw Great Red rolling around like he always do. Issei flew over to him and to talk to him. "Hey Uncle Red, did you miss me?" The dragon just huffed and looked at him before he replied, "Didn't expect you back this quick. Who killed you?" Issei just had a sad expression on his face as he said, "A fallen angel. I think someone forced her to kill me, thinking I had a powerful sacred gear." "What makes you think she was forced?" Great Red asked, and Issei went on to explain what happened during and after his date. Great Red just nodded and asked, "What will he do now?" "Well, I think I'll stay on Earth. I like my human parents, and I don't want to alter the memories they have of me or just disappear from their life." "Well, if you need me just call and we can talk through mental link, but before you go back let's check your power," Great Red said with a grin showing his massive canine teeth. Issei gulped as he knew the training was gonna hurt a lot. After Issei returned from the dimensional gap, he lay in his bed most of the day, too sore to do anything thanks to Great Red training, and noticing his power was the same it was before he had it sealed and turned human. It was a little after 2 p.m. when Issei felt the presence of a devil nearing his home. He looked out his window and saw a white-haired girl looking at his house, then her eyes met his, and he smiled at her and watched her as she left, knowing she's probably gonna report to her master. With that thought, Issei went downstairs to fix himself something to eat. Old school building. Rias sat and waited for Kaneko to return. She had sent her to see how the Haidu family was dealing with the death of their son, but was surprised to see her running into the room with a shocked look on her face. "Kaneko, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "How is Issei's family holding up?" Kaneko just looked at her and replied, "He's still alive, and I think he knew what I was when I was outside his home." Rias was stunned with this new information and decided to go and talk to Sona. Student council room. Inside the student council room was two young girls the same age as Rias. The first, sitting behind an office desk, was bespectacled woman in her late teens with a slim figure, black hair styled in a short bob cut and violet eyes, with a small pair of black framed glasses on her face. Next to her standing was another bespectacled woman with long straight black that extends all the way down to her knees with split bangs and heterochromic eyes, with a violet left eye and a light brown right eye. She also wore glasses, but her frame was green. As both heard a knock on the door, the one behind the desk looked at the one standing next to her and nodded to her, implying she can answer the door. Entering the room, Rias went straight to the one behind the desk and started talking. "Sona, what information did you get on Issei Haidu?" Sona looked up at Rias with an arched eyebrow. Before talking, Tsubaki bring the information she asked for. Tsubaki left and Sona returned her gaze back to Rias before continue speaking. "Why do you need his information since he is dead and wasn't reincarnated? That information is useless now." Rias smiled and just told her that he was still alive. Sona was shocked upon hearing this. "So what will you do now?" she asked. "Know the answer. I will invite him to the occult research club tomorrow and ask him if he would like to become a devil and join my peerage," Rias stated. It wasn't long before Tsubaki returned with a folder and handed it to Rias. Rias thanked both of them and returned to the old school building. Old school building. As Rias sat behind her desk and opened the folder, she was hoping to find something outstanding, but found the information just above average. Issei's parents and bloodline was completely normal. Nothing outstanding with their ancestors, no great achievement whatsoever. And the information on Issei was just above average, adopted by his parents after they found him at a shrine, and he had above average intellect. Rias had hoped for something outstanding that would blow her mind, but she wondered what if his birth parents were the ones who was not normal and extremely powerful in some way. With that thought, she closed the folder. "I guess I'll talk to him tomorrow," she said to herself while looking out the window. As Issei was walked through the gates of his school, he felt the presence of more devils. 13 devils, huh? 2 appear to be high class, then the rest must be their peerage, he said to himself. As he was walking, he saw the same white-haired devil was outside his house looking at him. He smiled at her once more and waved to her, and she just ran away like last time. Issei was surprised when his day went on normal and no other devil was watching him, and as his break came up he went to his usual spot and lay down underneath a tree. Then he sensed the same white-haired devil coming close to him. He noticed she was mixed with yokai, and he decided to speak up. "Hello, can you tell me why you keep looking at me and running away?" She just stared at him without emotion and replied, "Why can't I sense what you are now?" "What do you mean?" he asked. "At first I could tell you were more than just human. Now I don't know what you are," she replied before continue. "But you As they went up the stairs, Issei looked at one door that was sealed and had caution tape on and preventing anyone from entering. As they reached a room on the 3rd floor, he felt the presence of 3 more devils behind the door Kaneko was about to open. As Issei entered a room behind Kaneko, he looked around too for the other devils he sensed. The first was the male student the girls called the Prince of Kuo, Yudo Kiba, a handsome young man with short blonde hair, gray eyes and a mole under his left eye. As he kept scanning the room, the next one he saw was a redhead sitting behind a Victorian-style desk. And out of the back room came young woman with a buxom figure around the same age as Rias, with very long black hair and violet eyes. Her hair is usually tied in a long ponytail, reaching all the way down to her legs with 2 strands sticking out from the top and sloping backwards, with an orange ribbon keeping it in place, and she was carrying a silver cart with sweets, cake and tea. The one behind the desk motioned to Issei to have a seat on one of the couches in the room. Issei sat down, noticing that everything had a Victorian design. Then she sat up and walked in front of the desk and introduced herself. "Hello Issei, hi, my name is Rias Gremory and..." She was cut off as Issei raised his hand and started talking. "Gremory from the 72 pillars of the underworld," he asked, and she replied with a smile and a nod, then continued, "I see, so you know about devils. Do you know anything else about us?" Issei smiled as he accepted a cup of tea from the one who brought in the tea and said, "How about we introduce ourselves first?" She complied and continued the introduction, starting with the one who served him tea. "This is Akeno Himejima. The one who brought you here is Kaneko Taoju," said. Girl stood up, bowed to him, then sat back down and continued eating her cake. "And this is Yudo Kiba." The now named Yudo Kiba came over and shook Issei's hand. They were about to continue the conversation when Akeno spoke up. "But you, how about we finish this after school? Classes are about to continue." Issei then stood up and replied, "She's right, we can continue after school. I'll meet you guys back here." With a quick bow he turned and left the building. Then a smile appeared on Ria's face and she thought to herself, he knows about us devils and is willing to come back after school is over. After school Issei once again found himself in the old school building talking to Rias. "So Issei, how much do you know about us?" she asked. Issei then began to talk about all he knew about devils, angels, falling angels, the Great War and sacred gears. But he kept the death of God to himself, wanting to know if they knew about it and would tell him, which they never did, and he decided not to tell them that much. Then Rias asked him to tell them about himself. "There's not much to tell. When I was born I was kept hidden because of what I am, so my parents hid me, and after their death I was raised by my uncle, and a few years ago I sealed my power and made it appear I was human, until I died either of natural death or killed, and my seal would be broken." Everyone looked at him with either shocked or stunned expression on their faces. "So are you for your family and you to take drastic measures?" Akeno asked. Everyone in the room kept quiet, wanting to know more about him, but he sadly replied, "Sorry, I know the Gremorys are a kind and respectable family in the underworld, but I just can't talk about it right now." Rias smiled and continued the conversation. "Very well Issei Hayuadu, I would like you to join us in the occult research club, hoping that you'll trust us and join my peerage." Issei just scratched the back of his head and replied, "I'm sorry, but you won't be able to reincarnate me as a servant. If you don't believe me you can try right now." Rias smiled as she grabbed 8 crimson pawn pieces and placed them in front of him. As she said the incantation, the pawn pieces started glowing before rising above him and fell back down on the floor. She pouted a bit before smiling and talked to him one last time. "Well then, since I can't have you as a servant, how about join this club as an ally?" Issei stood up and shook her hand, accepting her offer. "And please just call me Ice." He smiled at his new club members. It's been 2 days since Issei joined the orc and they just returned from exterminating a stray devil, and Issei was not impressed by their display of power. Even though her knight Yudo Kiba was fast, he lacked great defenses and Issei could still track his movements. He was slightly impressed by her rook Kaneko Taoju's strength but was disappointed when he saw lack of speed. And even though her queen had the traits of the knight, rook and bishop, she mainly used the trait of bishop to maximize her magic power. But he also noticed that she had more power hidden that she didn't use and kind cringe at the fact that she was a sadist. But mostly he was disappointed by Rias. Even though she's from the Gremory household, she used the power of destruction from the Bale household. Thinking that one of her parent is from the house of Bale, she used too much power needed to finish of the stray. He just told himself that they were young and with time and training they'll be more powerful. After they returned, Issei drank some tea offered by Akeno and asked if she had a bishop. "I do, but I can't use him right now." Issei remembered the seal room he passes by on his way up to the club room and the devil he sensed behind the door. After he finished his tea he left for home. It was the day after the stray devil incident and Issei decided to just relax at a park before heading to school. As he was sitting on a park bench he saw a sister carrying a suitcase. She tripped and fell face first. As he ran over to her, her veil flew off her head that he caught and turned to her, noticing her long blonde hair and green eyes. But something inside of him was telling him to hold her and protect her. He then realized he was staring at her. Then he asked, "Are you okay? Do you need help with anything?" She smiled and started talking in Italian. But he understood her completely. "I've been assigned to a church here and I got lost because I can't read the signs and I don't understand the people around me." Issei smiled and replied in Italian, "I can help you and it won't be any trouble at all." She quickly grabbed his hand, said, "Thank you. It must God's will that led you to guide me on my path." His sweat dropped a bit knowing that God has died. He just waved his hand and said no problem. Leading her to the church, it was a quiet walk until Issei spoke up. "I'm Issei Hayuadu, by the way, but you can call me Ice," he told her, and she replied Asia Argento. Then Issei continued the conversation talking about the Bible, which made Asia quite happy. As they got closer to the church, Issei felt the presence of 4 fallen angels and multiple human auras. When he got close to the church he decided to let Asia walk the rest of the way. They said their goodbyes and Issei went on his way to school. During his class he opened up a mental link with Great Red to ask him something. "Hey Uncle Red, can you hear me? I need to ask you something." Then he heard the booming voice of Great Red. "What is it, bored of the living on Earth?" and decided to come back to the gap. "No, nothing of the sort. I met a girl today and I just had the urge to protect her and keep her to myself," Issei told him. "She must have an affinity with dragons, which means she has a pure uncorrupted heart that makes us want to keep her away from all harm," Great Red replied. Issei just sighed and placed his head on top of his desk and wondered if she'll be alright and if Yuma was okay as well. After school he went to talk to Rias. "Hey but you," he said as he entered the club room. "Eyes are getting used to being around us and having fun?" she asked from behind her desk, looking up from a stack of papers. "I'm just wondering what your thought on the fallen angels in town. As long as they don't interfere with us we'll leave them and just monitor their activity," she replied, "and I have sent a request to Grigori asking why they are in my territory and waiting for a reply." "Is that why you didn't intervene when I was attacked? You trying to avoid conflict as much as possible?" he asked with a curious look on his face. "Well," she started, "I was gonna resurrect you as my pawn if you had died," she said, looking at her desk with a small blush on her cheeks. "I see," he said with a deadpan face. Then the others started coming into the room getting ready for their night doing request. I sat on the couch drinking tea, then asked Rias a question that was on his mind for a couple of days. "But I've been wondering, I know what the others do when they do a devil request, so I was wondering, what type of request do you do?" Rias smiled as she answered, "Oh, I just mostly remove curses from objects and make deals with influential people." "Oh, that's not too bad," he replied. As the night went on, Issei was now walking home when he felt a falling angel following him. He then stopped and turned around to face his stalker, who was wearing a pale violet trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants and shoes, and a black fedora. He then asked, "So is there any particular reason you're following me, fallen?" The fallen angel just looked at him with a surprised look on his face before answering, "Well, look at this, I decided to take a walk tonight and ran into someone who's supposed to be dead. When I get back Rainer will have to explain herself." As he finished, a spear of light appeared in his hand and he threw it at Issei, but was surprised when he sidestepped and dodged it easily. He threw more light spears at him, but he kept dodging them and moving closer to the fallen. When he noticed that he was getting closer he tried to fly away, but Issei quickly grabbed on of his legs and slammed him down to the ground. As Issei was about to punch him in the face he got distracted as a magical circle appeared close to him and he saw Rias and Akeno coming out the circle. The fallen took this time to get away from Issei. "Crimson hair, you must be a woman from the house of Gremory," the fallen snared. "My name is Rias Gremory and you're attacking a friend of mine in my territory. My name is Donaseek and I hope we never meet again," he said as he was glaring at Rias before he flew away. Issei just shrugged his shoulders as he was complicating what to do about Asia, Yuma now named Rainer, and the fallen Donaseek. Tired from thinking too much he decided to just go home and worry about this the next day. Issei was in bed falling asleep when he sensed Rias entering his room through a magic circle. He just kept his eyes closed, just wondering what she was doing in his room. To his surprise she started to disrobe and get in bed with him. Issei, tired to bother with her, just let her do what she wanted, even as he felt her arms wrapping around him. The next morning Rias was surprised as she woke up in Issei's lap. She shot up to look at Issei, who was sitting up on his bed with a smile on his bed. "But why did you sneak into my room and climb into bed? But most of all, why did you get naked and started hugging me?" he asked, trying not to look at the lovely mounds in front of him. She smiled with a reply, "Well, I came to talk to you about the fallen, but when I saw you in bed I decided to join you." Issei just sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose before continuing, "That because I can't sleep unless I'm naked and hugging a body pillow, and since you don't have one I decided to hug you instead." She replied with a slight blush on her face. "Well, anyways, I'm not gonna judge what you do when you sleep, but we need to get ready for school," he stated before getting of the bed. "Issei, are you awake?" was heard behind his door. "Yes mom, I'll be down in a minute," he replied before looking at Rias. "Do you want to stay for breakfast?" he asked her while they were getting dressed. She just replied with a nod, "Mom." He shouted at the door waiting for his mother to reply, which she did, and waited for her son to continue. "Can you set one more spot for breakfast? We'll be having company," he said, and waited for her to reply. "Oh, did you make friends at school? That's wonderful. I'll set a place for your friend." Issei's sweat dropped a little, wondering how he's gonna explain Rias to his parents. While his mother was happy that he made a friend at school, she was not prepared for the red-headed beauty that came downstairs out of his room instead of knocking at the door to pick up her son like she expected. So the breakfast atmosphere was slightly awkward as the four of them was sitting at the table. His father was happy for his son to have such a beauty already spending the night, but his mother was suspicious of her intentions towards her son. "So Rias Gremory was it? Why we're in bed with my son? Are you here to trick him out of his money?" she asked with narrowed eyes as she stared at Rias. Rias just replied with a smile, of course not, and my family is very wealthy as we own several hotels around the world and other financial institutions. We also finance the construction of Cow Academy, she said in a voice filled with confidence. Issei and his parents were quite surprised at this information, but his mother continued the conversation. I just wanted to make sure my son wasn't getting tricked because we have some news to tell him. Issei looked at his mother with a puzzling look that said please finish what need to be said, and so his mother did. Issei, your father and I are going on a vacation trip tonight for 2.5 weeks, so you'll be alone until then. He just smiled thinking it wasn't any bad, and replied with his hand waving in front of him, I hope you two have a wonderful time and don't worry, I'll take care of the house while you're gone. His father finally joined the conversation with a slight lecherous smile on his face. Just don't have too much fun while we're gone, even though we'd like a grandchild to spoil, we'll wait till you're finished with college, and with that both Issei and Ria's face turned red as a tomato. I can't believe he would say something like that, he cursed as they walked to school, and Rias just smiled at him, but he could tell it was a forced smile, like the statement his father made was an uncomfortable topic, so he decided when she's ready she'll talk about it. As they entered the school grounds all eyes were upon them. Some girls were jealous cause they wanted to be with Issei, and the boys were glaring at him angrily cause they could never get close to Rias or Argento, but that didn't stop there. When he arrived at his class, he overheard some girls saying that they were already dating. And some wished they made a move on Issei earlier when he first transferred into the school, but 2 boys stood out the most shouting at him to leave the school so they could have the girls to themselves. The perverted duo, as everyone called them, Mitsuda, also known as the perverted Baldy, a former jock and sports star, and his friend Motohama Slow, known as perverted glasses or 3 size counting, claiming he can count a girl 3 measures by just looking at them. Issei human part made a mental note of not getting involved with them when they were caught and beaten by the girls of the kendo club for peeking. It was after school now and Issei was laying on the couch as everyone went out to handling their clients' wishes, so he decided to go home early tonight, and remembering he had to cook for himself because his parents won't be there, as he finished his meal and prepared for bed, he stayed up a while longer to see if Rias would sneak into his room again, but she never came. Issei was a bit taken aback at the atmosphere in the clubroom before speaking up, hey but you, everyone what's wrong? Rias was the one to reply with a forlorn expression. Last night when Kaneko went to meet a client she found him nailed against a wall upside down, with cuts all over his body. She sighed before continuing, and then she was attacked by a priest, but the strange part is he was with a nun who saw the client and was shocked at what she saw. It was then Kaneko continued, the priest grabbed her and shoved her face into the client and told her this is what we do to devil worshippers before he dropped a flash grenade and left. Issei just had a concerned look on his face before asking Kaneko did the nun had blonde hair and spoke Italian and seemed too kind for her own good. Kaneko just nodded as she took a bite out of her chocolate bar. Issei, do you know her? Rias asked with a worried expression. Yes, I met her a few days ago and walked her to the abandoned church that the fallen angels are holed up in. It was the day after and I was glad it was Saturday once again and took his bike out. He stopped and sat on a bench at a park where his seal was broken. He took a seat on a bench and started thinking about everything that was going on. Then I felt a familiar aura. It belonged to Asia. I got up and started looking around the park and found her wandering around with a lost look on her first. The same look she had when I first met her. I just walked over to her and she was surprised to see me. Ice, what are you doing here? She asked. I'm just riding my bike around town today. What about you? I replied with a smile. I just wanted to see the town today, so I decided to take a walk was her answer, but I could tell there was something weighing on her mind. Do you want me to show you around? We can ride around on my bike. I just smiled at her as she held onto me tight with her eyes closed as we rode through traffic. We stopped at a family restaurant. I ordered a double cheeseburger and fries with a soda. I noticed she was having trouble reading the menu, so I ordered the same for her, but she had a puzzled look when our food came. What wrong, Asia? What's wrong? Don't you like it? I asked. She just nodded no and replied, it's not that, it's I never had anything like this and they didn't bring me a fork or a knife to eat with. I just smiled and thought that she must have lived a sheltered life before showing her how to eat the food in front of us. While we were having our lunch, Issei sensed a devil watching us. He didn't have any of the aura I felt at the school. Issei looked out the window and noticed a young devil with blonde hair was watching them. Issei made his hand into the shape of a gun, pointed it at the devil, and mouthed the words bang. The devil was surprised at this and left the scene. Asia was surprised at his sudden gesture, looked out the window and asked Ice, is there something wrong outside? He just replied, I just remembered a place that is nearby that I know you'll have fun at. When they arrived at arcade, Asia had stars in her eyes, everything in front of her. They started out with a racing game. Even though Issei won, she was still smiling. As we were leaving she left my side to look at the crane game and was smiling at a little stuffed toy based on a mouse. Would you like that stuffed toy? I asked her. Oh no, you've done so much for me today. It's no problem, I replied while inserting a coin into the machine and got the stuffed toy on my first try. Her face lit up enthusiastically as she accepted it. On our way back to my back, a young boy fell in front of us and scraped his knee. Asia immediately kneeled down and I saw a green glow from her hands and the boy's scraped knee was healing. He bowed and thanked her before leaving. That's a wonderful sacred gear you've got there, she looked at me. Ice, you know about sacred gears? Yeah, my uncle told me about them when he was training me. Ice, can I tell you a story? I just nodded as she put on a complicated expression, then her face turned sad as she started. In a certain region in Europe, there was a girl who was discarded by her parents. She was raised in a church nearby by a nun along with other orphans. The girl, who was a strong follower of the church, received a special power at the age of 8. She healed a wounded puppy, and a person from the Catholic Church witnessed it by chance. From there on, her life changed. The girl was taken to the main Catholic Church, and she was symbolized by many as a holy maiden because of her healing power. She used her power to heal many believers, and they were told it was a power of divine protection. Rumors brought rumors, and she was respected as a holy maiden. Even without her approval. She had no dissatisfaction for how she was treated. People from the church were kind, and she didn't hate healing people. She instead was happy that her power was of use. The girl was thankful to her power which was bestowed to her by God, but she was a bit lonely. She didn't have any friends she could open up to. Everyone treated her nicely and was nice to her, but there were no one willing to become her friend. She understood why. She knew that they were looking at her power as something irregular. They didn't look at her as a human, but as a creature that could heal humans. But one day, it changed. By coincidence, there was a devil nearby and she healed it. A wounded devil. The girl couldn't ignore it. She thought that even if it was a devil, she had to heal it if it was injured. It was her kindness that made her take such an action, but that changed her life forever. Someone from the church saw that incident and notified others of the church. The ministers of the church were shocked about it, a power that can heal devils. Something absurd like that cannot happen. The power of healing can only heal the followers of God. Yes, there were several people who had the power to heal. But the power to heal the devil was out of the question. The people of the church thought it was common sense that the power of healing doesn't work on fallen angels and devils. Apparently, a similar incident had happened in the past. The power to heal fallen angels and devils that were not protected by God, but that was feared as the power of a witch. So the people saw her as a heretic. Damn witch that heals devils. The girl, who was respected as a holy maiden, was then feared as a witch, and the Catholic Church abandoned her. She didn't have anywhere to go, and the organization of stray exorcists picked her up. In other words, she had to get divine protection from the fallen angels. But the girl never forgot to pray to God. She also never forgot to thank God. Even so, the girl was abandoned. God didn't save her. What shocked her the most was that there was not even a single person in the church that was willing to defend her. There was no one who cared about her. It's because I didn't pray enough. It's because I'm clumsy. I'm so stupid that I can't even eat a burger by myself. Asia wipes her tears while laughing. This is also a trial that the Lord gave me. Since I'm a clumsy nun, the Lord gave me this trial, so I have to endure it. She was laughing as if she was talking to herself. I'm sure I will make lots of friends one day. I have a dream. I want to go buy flowers with a friend, buying books and someone to talk with. She is full of tears. You already have a friend in me, Asia. We ate, played and talked together. I told her that with a smile. I wanted to tell her that God was dead, but her mental state is unstable right now. She might do something drastic, so I gave a hug and held her tight before continuing. Asia, I might have something to tell you. I paused and looked into her eyes. I'm not human. Before I could continue, a barrier went up, and everyone in the area was leaving as is avoiding being around the area. Then a young man with short white hair and dressed as priest came walking towards us and started talking. Asia, why did you run away from us? We need you to come back. Father Freed, I'm not coming back. You tried to kill a man last night. I don't want to be around people like that. But it's our job to punish shitty devil worshippers and devils too. We don't have God's protection, but we still need to do his work. Isay, I'm sorry. The truth is I ran away, but I have to go back now, she said with a downcast expression. I just held her hand. Asia, it's a good thing that you ran away, cause I was wondering how to save you and Rainer, who's still at the church. As I finished talking to Asia, I turned to the priest. I think you should leave now. It's obvious she don't want to go with you, so she'll be coming with me. When I finished my statement, his face turned into a scowl before he started talking again. Who do you think I am? My name is Fried Selzen, the great exorcist, he yelled, then put on a disgusted face before continuing. They said I can't kill you, so I'll kill your boyfriend, then rape you and take you back to the Donasik, so he's circa. Before he finished he was punched in the face. Asia didn't even see Issei leave her side. At first she was thinking of leaving with Fried, so Issei will be safe, and after what he said about rescuing her, she wasn't sure what to do, but she didn't want to go back to the Fallen, and now her first friend was fighting for her. "You're not human, you must be a shitty devil, I'll cut you up like the rest," he exclaimed while pulled out a light sword and gun. He then rushed at Issei and attempted to slash him across his chest. Issei dodged the slash and saw the gun pointed at his left leg. He immediately spun on his right leg, avoiding the shot. Fried was getting frustrated that none of his attacks were hitting. He jumped backwards and took one last shot at Issei, then pointed his gun at Asia. Issei seeing this immediately ran and stood in front of her and glared at Fried. "Shitty devil, I'll kill you later, I'm leaving this town today anyways," he said before running away. Issei looked at Asia, who now had tears in her eyes, used his fingers to wipe her tears away. "Why are you crying?" he asked with a worried expression. She just looked up at him and replied with a smile, "Because no one ever stood up for me before, of course I'll stand up for you, that's what friends do. Help each other when in trouble and stand up for each other." He stumbled back a little as she hugged him. He just patted her head. "Now we need to head back to the church, there is someone else that I need to rescue," he told her. Asia looked at him with a curious look on her face before talking. "You mean the 3 fallen angel girls that they have locked up in a room? They told me they misbehaved and was getting punished." Issei's face became calm at the new information, then remembered Rainer told him about her friends. "Abandoned church? What do you mean she's with someone else?" Issei shouted at Fried. "You were supposed to bring her back so I can extract her sacred gear." He clenched his fist at another failure of his subordinates. First Rainer said she killed the boy he told her to kill, and somehow he's still alive. And when he found out he started whipping her and the other 2 he had locked up, and now Fried failed to bring back Asia and her sacred gear Twilight Healing. Now he was wondering how he's gonna explain that he couldn't get her sacred gear to the one he serves Gabriel. He said he'll be coming here for Rainer. With that bit of news, Issei gained a wicked smile as he formulated a plan to kill the boy and extract the Twilight Healing from the Asia. As Issei and Asia pulled up in front of the church, it was already nightfall. They got off his bike and walked up to the door. Issei saw that Asia was nervous, held her hand in his, and assured her that everything will be fine. He sensed multiple human auras within the church, and the 4 fallen angel auras he felt as well, but he noticed that 3 fallen angel auras were getting weaker. He opened the door and they entered. He was prepared for battle. "Welcome, it must be fate that we can be united again." Fried greeted them while clapping. "Did you know I never meet the same prey twice because I'm super strong, but you're stronger than me, so I'll take my leave. The plan can't allow me to die tonight, so until we meet again," he said before leaping through a window. Asia looked at the window with a perplexed look on her face before following Issei to the podium. Issei just looked at the podium and destroyed it with a punch, showing hidden stairs that led underground. Reaching the bottom of the stairs, they saw 2 female fallen angels chained and sitting against a pillar with a light. But what stood out of place was a metal cross in the middle of the underground room. "That's far enough," shouted Issei. Issei and Asia stopped and stood waiting for him to continue. "Hand the girl over to me, and I'll let you and this one leave." Burning Rainer a little while he said that, Issei just closed his eyes and sighed before replying. "How about you let the 3 girls leave with me and Asia, and I'll you and your minions behind you live." Issei put in an evil grin before telling the exorcists to attack him. Issei, seeing this, inhaled a deep breath before and shouted dragon's flame, releasing a fireball that went over all their heads. "You missed," one of the exorcists quipped. "I wasn't aiming for you," as he said that the fireball hit the cross, destroying it. Issei started seething at this action and yelled at the perpetrator, "Have you any idea what you just did?" Issei's face held no emotion as he said, "I'm guessing that you needed that machine for something important, so I took it away. I'll say it again, leave now, and I'll let you live." Issei just started laughing. "I see, so that what you are, you didn't hold any sacred gear, you're just a dragon." Everyone in the room was stunned at the announcement just made, and "What if I am?" he replied. "I'll show you that we fallen angels are superior to all. I'll kill you and then take Twilight Healing from that nun." Upon hearing that, Asia cringed while holding onto Issei's arm. Since she saw the state of the injured fallen female, she wanted to heal them, but Issei held her back. Now she was shocked and surprised that he wasn't a human but a dragon and was trying to help her and be her friend. Even though she wasn't sure of herself, she knew she still wanted to be friends with Issei. Issei looked back at Asia and told her to hide behind a pillar. Soon as she let go of his hand and complied, he got into a battle stance. Issei threw Rainer away from him, unveiling 6 wings on his back, and got into a battle stance with a light spear in both hands. Issei bent his knees slightly before disappearing and reappearing in the middle of the group of exorcist dragons inferno. He shouted while spinning, releasing a flame emanating from his body going outwards. Issei flew upwards above it all and saw his men getting enveloped in the flame. He's stronger than he appears. I have to report him to Gabriel-sama. Issei looked around, making sure Asia and the 3 fallen females didn't get injured before going after Issei. Anasak was upstairs preparing a magic circle to leave when Issei was suddenly in front of him. He had fear in his eyes as he saw the anger in Issei's eyes. Issei leapt forward with a front somersault and brought down his foot that was ablaze with fire, hitting Donasik across his chest, leaving a scar that ran along his chest and stomach. Just a little reminder. "And tell your master these girls are under my protection," he said and walked back to the underground. Donasik grabbed his chest while disappearing in his magic circle. Back in the underground, Asia was trying to heal Rainer and the other two who were covered in cuts from being beaten to near death. Issei looked at them, broke the handcuffs that was suppressing their magic. He also realized that they were very near to death and not sure if Asia could heal them. He began looking around the underground, trying to find anything to help them. As he almost walked past a cupboard, he noticed it was magically infused. Upon opening it, he realized it was concealing several interesting items: an evil pieces full set, the Brave Saint Spades card set the angels were working on, but it was incomplete, also a red gauntlet, and a paper with a topic blazer shining aura darkness blade written by Azazel. Issei held the red gauntlet and felt the presence of a dragon sleeping. He took these items and them to the girls. "How are they?" he asked. Asia just looked at him and spoke in a sad tone. "They're very weak. Even if I heal them, I don't know if they'll live." Issei immediately stood up and asked the three of them, "I may have a way to save the three of you, but I'm not sure if it will work." They all looked at him, and Rainer was the first to speak up. "Our own kind did this to us and you're the only one to help. If it means that someday we'll get our revenge, then I'll take that chance." They all nodded at her words. They saw a magic circle appear under them and was instantly transported away. Dimensional gap. Issei and the four girls appeared in a what appeared to be a protective bubble. Looking around, it was the tall one who was first to speak. "Where are we, and why are we in this bubble?" she asked weakly. Issei realized he didn't know the other two fallen females' name, decided to ask. Well, given them an answer. "We're in the dimensional gap. I'm here to ask my uncle for help." "By the way, I never got the names of you two," he replied. "My name is Calawerner, and this middled. Why are we in the dimensional gap?" she asked with a worried expression. Issei just looked onto the horizon before answering. "Waiting for my uncle. I can't attempt what I want to do without his help." The three fallen angels was confused. As far they know, the only being that lived in the dimensional gap was Great Red, the apocalypse dragon. Then they all saw something massive rolling towards them. Asia just grasped onto Issei's arm and watched as the being stopped rolling a few meters away and flying towards them. They all had the look of fright on their face as a massive red dragon stopped in front of them. "Everyone meet my uncle Great Red," he said with a smile. They all shouted. "Great Red is your uncle." "No need to shout, I'm right here," he exclaimed while picking his ear. "Okay, since I'm about to do something drastic, I think I should tell you guys what I am." As he said that, the girls had a confused look on his face, then turned surprised as he showed them his wings. "But how is this possible?" Middle asked, looking between Issei and Great Red. The other two fallen angels had the same thought and look on their faces, but Asia was just staring at his angel wings. Then Issei began explaining everything to them about his parents, how Great Red helped them, and the seal that Rainer broke when she killed him. "Sorry for killing you, Issei," she said with a downcast expression. "Don't worry about it, at least I got a kiss out of it." "And call me Ice," he told her, which put a slight blush on her face. Asia was feeling out of place, so she decided to ask Issei why he brought them here. "Ice, why are we here? What is your uncle gonna help you do?" Issei pounded his left fist into his right palm, as if he forgot and remembered why he brought them all there. He then turned to Great Red and started talking about his plan so everyone can hear. "Great Red, I need your help in combining the devil's evil pieces and the unfinished angel's brave saints cards." Great Red just showed his canines into a huge smile and replied, "That is possible. But you'll have to add some of your draconian essence, and it will only work if you have the kings of each set." Issei looked at both sets and smiled when he saw that both kings were there. The girls were still confused at the conversation between Issei and the apocalypse dragon. Then Issei turned to them and said, "What I'm attempting to do is combining the brave saints card and evil pieces with dragon magic. So you girls will be one part angel, one part dragon, and one part devil." He paused before continuing. "But you three will still be one part fallen, and Asia, you'll be just like me, one part angel, one part dragon, and one part devil." They all looked at him in shock, trying to comprehend what he just said before Middle spoke up again. "Is such a thing possible?" She received her, and from a loud bellow that caused her to flinch as Great Red replied, "Nothing is impossible for me." Issei then had pieces and the cards floating in front of him and read. He started to merge both cards and chess pieces together. He started with the kings. Great Red noticed that Issei didn't have enough draconian energy for the procedure, so he decided to use his instead. After the kings were combined, it transformed into a crimson chess piece with dragon scales. But the thing Issei noticed the most was that in the center was the spade symbol, with a pair of angel wings outspread behind the spade and a K for king in the center of the spade. He then took the new combined piece and placed it inside his chest. He then felt his body and power more balanced than before. At first his body and powers felt like it was in constant flux battling for power, but now it felt as though it was at peace. He and Red then started pairing the other pieces and cards. Queens went together, the Jack and 10 paired with the rooks. The 9 and 8 paired with the bishops, the 7 and 6 paired with the knights, the 5, 4, 3 and 2 paired with a pawn each, but the ace took the remaining 4 pawns to be paired with. Great Red consider it equal to the mutated piece of the evil piece system. Now that the merging was complete, the girls looked at the pieces and noticed that each pieces had the same similarities as Issei's king piece. They were all crimson with dragon scales, the spade in the center with angel wings outspread from the spade, and the card number in the center of the spade. He then looked at the girls and asked them if they were ready for a new life as his servants. They all nodded without hesitation. Rainier was the first. For her he chooses the 2 of pawn. His magic circle glowed below her, and he placed a piece into her chest. Her body glowed, and after the glowing stopped she felt revive. "Now let's see your wings," Issei asked, and she complied, feeling muscles on her back that she never felt before tearing at her back, and then she felt nothing, but the look on her companion's face were of shock. She looked behind her and saw her new wings, 1 angel wing and 1 fallen wing, and below those were her a new pair of dragon wings, and below those were her devil wings. She fell down feeling tired from the new abilities she just gained. Issei then turned to the other girls and started the procedure with them individually. It was now middle turn, and she laid floating in the middle of the other girls, and Issei gave her the 3 of pawn, and just like Rainier the procedure was a success. She smiled as she looked at her angel wing. Unlike the other 2, she was born a fallen angel, so she was happy to be part angel. At first Rainier was a bit skeptical at first, but now after seeing her comrades, she was sure that this was the right thing to do. They were betrayed by their own kind, and no one in their faction saved them. It was this boy who saved them when he didn't have to. He could have just saved Asia and leave them, but he came back for them and is willing to give them the power to live and get vengeance on the one who betrayed them. She stepped in front of Asia and laid before Issei and told him she was ready for what piece he deemed her fit to be. Issei brought out the 10 of rook and placed it in her chest. She was content that this was the right decision. After everything was over, she sat down next to Rainier and middled and watched as it was Asia's turn to become his servant. Asia was a bit frightened at the fact that her entire state of being was about to change, but her fears was slowly going away when she realized that she'll be with her first friend for a very long time. As she laid there and saw Issei place the 8 of bishop and placed it into her chest, even though she knew that she was transformed into what Issei was, she didn't feel all that different until she tried to show her wings. She was ecstatic being part angel, a being that was part of her religion, but was concerned about her other 2 pair of wings. Issei looked at the girls and started talking to them about their new wings. "Now that you all have the same abilities just like me, you still have whatever original abilities you had before, and I'll help you all train to master your new ones." He then looked at the 3 fallen angels and continued speaking. "I'll also ask that you help Asia adjust to her new life. I know she never had much contact with the outside world as the role the church placed on her, so I'll ask for your instance in this." They all nodded in agreement with him. "Oh, one more thing, even though you all are part devil, you won't be affected by prayers and holy water. The only thing that can hurt you is holy weapons and light spears." Asia looked up at him and asked what was on her mind. "Done that mean I can still pray and read the Bible?" Issei looked at her with a smile, seeing that even though she was thrown out of the church and called a witch, she still prayed to God. He wanted to tell them God was dead, but opted not to at this moment. "Thanks for your help, Uncle Red," Issei said as he was preparing to leave, just to be stopped by Great Red. "What do you plan to do with Drake?" he asked. Issei just looked at the gauntlet before speaking. "So that's the dragon I sensed in the gauntlet. Maybe I'll put it in my pocket dimension with the other pieces until I find a servant who can be its host." Great Red just turned ready to go back doing its tricks in the dimensional gap. Before having the last word, "Be careful while you were away, she came by and told me she's gathering beings from different factions to fight me. Even though she don't know about our relationship, she might try to recruit you." Issei haven't heard him talk about her since Great Red told him the story of when they fought for control of the dimensional gap. He wanted to roll around and do tricks, she wanted silence. With a nod he activated his magic circle and they left the dimensional gap. Barry appeared back inside the abandoned church. Issei immediately felt the presence of the devil who was watching him and Asia earlier, and the presence of 15 weaker devils. As they were leaving the church, Issei looked at his bike and realized that he don't have enough room at his house for all of them. He was pushing his bike while the girls were walking on either side of him. When he reached his home, he placed his bike in the garage and told the girls to make themselves at home, cause he had an errand to run. While inside, Issei turned around to face the devil and his followers who've been stalking them since they left the church. "Can you tell me why you're following us, devil?" he snared. And out of the shadows a blond young man dressed in noble attire stepped out and started speaking. "My name is Diodora Astaroth. I've come from Asia," he said with an insincere smile. Issei looked at him while being on guard of him. "Can you tell me how you know her?" Still smiling, he just snapped his fingers, and 15 girls dressed as nuns appeared from where they were hiding. Issei looked at them and thought of something. "Let me guess, you were the devil she healed." Diodora continued smiling as he talked. "Let's just say I have a fetish for pure nuns, and after she got kicked out the church I was gonna make her my next plaything." Issei was disgusted by what he just heard. He created a barrier around him and the devils. "Don't try to escape, you won't be able to." After that was said, Diodora ordered the girls to attack Issei. Issei ignored the girls and went straight for Diodora, punching him, breaking his nose. Diodora held his bloody nose and snarled at Issei. "Do you not know who you're dealing with, you insignificant worm?" "I am Diodora Astaroth, little brother to Ajuka Beelzebub." Issei paused his actions before continuing. "I see, so I can't just kill you." Diodora smiled once more, thinking he won. "Good, now that you know your place you will hand my Asia over to me. Let me ask you something. Does Rias Gremory know that you're in her territory?" Diodora was taken aback at the statement, and his smile faltered. This was all Issei needed. As he raised his left hand up, Diodora thought he was given up and started walking towards him with his girls now at his side, but was surprised when he and the nuns were trapped in circular barrier. They tried to escape using magical attacks and teleportation but failed. "Why don't we go talk to Rias and see what she has to say about this?" and teleported away. Old school building. Rias was about to dismiss her peerage for the night when a magic symbol containing a dragon's head with ram's horn on both sides, a cross in the middle of the dragon's head, and one pair of both angel and devil wings spreading behind the dragon's head. Realizing that they never saw this symbol before, they all got on guard and stood in front of Rias in a protective manner, but was surprised when they saw who came out the magic circle. They looked on and relaxed when Issei came out the magic circle, and behind him was a young man with 15 girls dressed as nuns in a barrier. "Oh my Issei, you have a very unique magic circle. I never seen anything like it," Rias stated with a smile, but dropped her smile when she recognized the young man trapped in the barrier. "Why is the heir to the Astaroth clan and his peerage trapped behind you?" she asked, still bearing cautious of the situation. "That's why I'm here. Did you know he was in your territory?" he asked of her. "No, I did not, but before you explain the situation, I'll have to ask for someone else to be present," and with that she looked to Akeno, who just bowed towards Rias before leaving the room. It was 10 minutes after Akeno left. Issei was currently sitting on a sofa across from Kaneko, who was eating some chocolate donuts with sprinkles. Rias was seated behind her desk, not sure how to deal with the situation, and Yudo was standing near Diodora and had his guard up. Then there was a knock on the door, and Akeno entered the room with 2 females. The first had a bob-cut hairstyle wearing glasses, the other one had knee-long black hair. She also wore glasses with heterochromic eyes. "Sona, Tsubaki, welcome," Rias greeted them. I stood up and greeted them. "Hi, I'm Issei Haidu. I'm Sona Shitori, student council president, and this is my vice president Tsubaki Shinra." Sona greeted. "I see Shitori must be an alias, and you and your peerage is the other devil presence I've been feeling in the school," Issei said with a small smile. "It's no point in trying to hide it, he knows more about us and the supernatural world than we thought," Rias exclaimed. "I see, then allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Sona Citri, and this is my queen Tsubaki Shinra," she said with a small curtsy. Sona was now looking at the trapped Diodora before taking a seat across from Issei, with Tsubaki standing behind her. Akeno went to the back room and prepared some tea. Kaneko was now standing next to Yudo. After Akeno returned and served tea to Rias, Sona and Issei, they started the conversation. "So Issei, why do you have the heir to the Astaroth house and his peerage trapped in a barrier?" Sona inquired. "He attacked me and was about to attack a member of my newly created peerage. Before he finished he was cut off by Rias yelling. Issei, I never knew you had a peerage. What house are you from?" When she stopped as Issei put his hand in the air to stop her from talking so he can continue. "Rias, I just created my peerage tonight, and I'm not from any house in the underworld, but to continue, I have a feeling you didn't know he was in your territory. The only reason he's still alive is because he claimed to be the little brother of Ajuka Beelzebub. I'm glad that you didn't kill him, and yes, he's the little brother to one of our leaders," Rias explained. "Issei, this member of your new peerage you created, is she a nun?" Sona asked with a beaked eyebrow. "Yes, she's a former nun, and please you can call me Ice." "I see, he has a habit of breaking nuns and using them as his playthings," Sona told him. This enraged Issei slightly as he glared at Diodora. "Well Issei, since he's a high-class pure-blooded from a Pillar's clan, the most he'll get is talked to about going in another's territory without informing the person in charge," Sona told him. "So I have to release him?" Issei asked as he looked between Rias and Sona. They both nodded at him. Issei got up and went over to the barrier and saw Diodora looking at him with a smug smile. Issei glared at him before dispelling the barrier. Diodora stood up and dusted himself off and was about to speak before Issei grabbed him by the throat and told him. Come close to me or Asia, and I'll rip your heart out and feed it to you, and deal with the consequences." I then released the grip and watched him and his peerage leave in a magic circle. Rias and Sona watched the interaction between Issei and Diodora, and after Diodora left, Sona spoke up. "Issei, we will need you to fully explain yourself and how you acquired a peerage." Issei looked at her as he calmed himself down before replying, "How about tomorrow you and Rias can come over to my house for dinner while I explain everything. You can even bring your queens," and after he told them that, teleported back home. Issei appeared in his bedroom and went downstairs to see the girls watching TV and sitting on the couch. "Okay, now that we're all here, let's talk about sleeping arrangements. Asia and Middle, you can have the spare room upstairs, and Calwarner and Rainer, you can sleep in my room tonight. As for me, I'll sleep on the couch for tonight and think of a permanent situation tomorrow," Issei told them, standing next to the TV. "Oh, and before I forget, 4 devils will be coming over for dinner tomorrow, so I can explain how I got my own peerage." They all looked a little shocked about the company coming over tomorrow before relaxing and continued watching TV. End of the here. So that's it for today's video, guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.